afternoon. You guys all know how much I love creativity, and I want to say a pretty bold statement, and that is I think we must all learn how to be creative. Now, I don't usually like rules. I'm a rule breaker myself, but I want to talk about why I think it's important that we all must learn to be creative. And I want to talk about a little story. So, I recently moved into this apartment here, and my neighbor above me got really creative. And she decided that it would be really cool to turn her deck into a lawn. So it's just a standard little apartment. She has a Great Dane living in there. So I've got the world's like smallest 5-pound dog downstairs. She's got a horse living upstairs. And I don't know if she was trying to make her deck look pretty by putting grass out there, or if she was trying to make a place for her dog to, do what dogs need to do outside, or what. But she literally brought in dirt and real turf, rolls of grass, turf, rolled it out on her deck, which is right above my porch. So while I applaud her creativity and her her creativity, there are some inherent problems with having a dog that might use that piece of grass right above my head. So anyway, luckily my landlord saw it and all this kind of stuff. But the point is, I want to talk about when life teaches us or puts us in a position or something comes up where we need to think creatively, where we need to think outside the box, where we need to create transformation in our life, because it's at that point that we need to have already exercised creativity in our life. So just like lifting weights creates stronger muscles, creativity doesn't just happen. Like, I think that's one of the kind of wrong messages that we get in our culture, that some people are creative, some people are not, some people are logical, some people are not, you're either left-brained or right-brained, those kind of messages. And that if you're creative, you're just naturally creative, and that's it, that's the end of the story, you're creative. And if you're not, you're not. But creativity is like a muscle, and we need to work it. So when we come upon some things in life that cause us to think outside the box, like I'm thinking back when my oldest son was in grade school, he got picked on a lot. And I always knew that there was a good chance that I would want to, at some point, switch his schools, and it would just have to come very quickly, very fast. And so I would always keep kind of a running list in my head of different ways that he could be schooled if I had to change his situation very quickly. So like I was thinking about different homeschooling programs, online homeschooling programs, different charter schools in the area, just different options. I'd listen to other parents and where their kids were going to school and what they liked about it or not, private schools, all these kind of things. I kept that information going because in the moment, if the moment came where he needed to switch schools and it needed to happen quickly, it wouldn't do me any good to start doing all the research then, right? So when we come up against things in life where we have to get creative, where we have to think outside the box, where maybe we run into a financial situation and we're like, ooh, did not prepare to have to replace all my tires at once, or didn't have to prepare, or wasn't prepared to replace the shingles on my roof after that windstorm, or maybe like I've moved a few times this year, and that was some of those were unexpected and fairly quick. And so I had to be able to have creativity going on hyperdrive to be able to figure out those situations. We need to have already cultivated some sort of creativity in our life. And so just like my neighbor got really creative and tried to transform her deck into a lawn, we need to be able to take that same kind of creativity, maybe be a little more practical about it, and maybe think about what's going to rain down on our neighbors. But before we do that, but we need to take things, we need to have this creative muscle, this creative piece of our brain already working and already exercising, so that when life brings us into a situation that requires creativity, we have that muscle kind of already going and already kind of primed and ready. And so I want to encourage you guys, I want to encourage everybody to start thinking how to incorporate creativity into your life. In my life, that is like kind of traditional creativity. It's arts and crafts. I love doing anything with paper, scissors, glue, paint, kids' crayons, doesn't matter. I love any kind of that kind of hands-on creativity, but creativity doesn't have to be in the form of art or arts and crafts. You don't have to think, oh, wait, Kimberly's telling me to go to Michael's and learn how to knit. No, not necessarily, but yes, that does help. So creativity can come in the form of maybe walking a different path every week instead of going on your normal route, so that you're seeing different things and you're exercising your brain. Or maybe while you're on a walk, you're actually like looking and paying attention to the new flowers that are coming up this spring and the leaves that are just starting to come out on the trees, or things like that. Cultivating a lifestyle of creativity, I believe, is absolutely critical to being able to function well, especially when we are thrown into situations, or when situations happen that come at us unexpectedly. So as my tagline is, I'm Kimberly and I like to inspire a creative life. So not only do I want to teach you some ways to be kind of artsy and creative and talk about those kind of things that are super fun and wonderful, but I also want to talk about why be creative. Because if you think you're one of those people that's just I'm not creative, it's not my thing, I think there are important reasons why. Just like I could say I don't tend to be a naturally logical person. Like, I don't tend to work out of the left side of my brain. If, sitting down and writing a budget is a task for me, where some people, like accountants, I guess they love it. I don't understand. But anyway, that's, like left-brained activities are something I have to work at. Exercising is something I have to work at. Making my body function in the face of chronic illness is something I have to work at. Well, for some people, creativity is going to feel like that, right? It's not going to come naturally to you. But I just want to throw out this idea that that it's worth pursuing. And I do think if you don't know where to begin when it comes to creativity, and you are interested in doing more kind of a hands-on arts and crafts kind of thing, I do think that that is a great place to start. It's a great jumping point. There are all sorts of like grown-up coloring books now that inspires creativity in a really simple way, in a really inexpensive way. Or grab a kid's coloring book at the dollar store. Coloring Hello Kitty is super fun. Like, who doesn't love Hello Kitty? So, but practicing, getting your brain used to thinking outside the box, used to putting colors together in new ways, or used to thinking about things differently, used to seeing the world in different perspectives all the time, can really be helpful as we go along through life and hit these bumpy paths. Because then our brain is already going to go, oh, I know how to think creatively. That's what I got to do in this situation. Maybe we have a situation where our child gets sick and they're at school and they're sick, and both parents work, and we're like, we don't have a backup plan here, and our child just got diagnosed with appendicitis, so they're going to be sick for a while and recovering from surgery. What are we going to do? Instead of panicking, or instead of just going into kind of spinning and not knowing what to do, if you're used to being creative, you can go tap into that creative side of your brain and go, okay, what are some of the ways that we might be able to get through this situation? So you might be able to talk to your boss about taking family leave. You might be able to talk to some friends who could help take care of your child, who maybe other stay-at-home moms who are already at home could help out. Maybe you could ask people to help bring you dinners so that you don't have to cook. Maybe you could work with other people in the neighborhood to take over some tasks outside, walk your dog for you, different things like that. If you are if you're cultivating this brain of creativity and kind of this mind of creativity, these bumpy things that come along in life will be easier to handle. And also, if these bumpy things that come along in life are not easy to handle, get with a friend who's creative until you've exercised that muscle. Just like if I wanted to run a 5K, I'd have to hire somebody to teach me how. Like, I don't run. And so I would have to learn, right? I'd have to learn how to exercise the right muscles and do all the right things to learn how to run a 5K. I don't even know how long it is. That sounds like a really long run. But if you don't naturally have these creativity pieces built up already in you, find somebody who does and sit down with them and say, okay, I've got this situation and I need to think through it creatively. I can think through the logic. Like, let's go back to let's say there was a windstorm and your roof, the shingles got blown off your roof and you have to replace your roof and you weren't financially prepared for that. Maybe you're a logical person and you're like, okay, logically, I get it. I need a new roof. Logically, I get it. My bank account doesn't say I can afford a new roof. And then we panic, right? So get with somebody who's creative and say, gosh, maybe you've got a friend who you know, those outside of the box thinkers. Sit down with somebody like that and say, I need some creative ideas on how to deal with this situation. And maybe you can come up with some really cool stuff. Maybe it's all a matter of just thinking differently about the problem because you're seeing it through a creative lens. So I just want to encourage you guys with that today. It was just some thoughts that I was having as my neighbor was throwing dirt off of her porch since the landlord didn't think her creative grassy deck was a good idea. I'm so thankful. As she was throwing that off, I was thinking today about how I got to give her props for like wanting grass in an apartment and thinking that was kind of a cool idea. But it made me think, okay, so she was working on transforming a situation into something creative that she wanted, and she was thinking outside the box, definitely. And I was like, you know what? We really need to be doing that in life. We really need to be cultivating that creativity muscle in life, so that when transformation needs to happen, or when a situation comes upon us that requires us to think outside the box, we've got kind of those muscles going. And also we can do that then for others too. We can be the friend who can sit down and say, okay, let's think outside the box on this one. I know you're in a tight spot, or I know this is a really hard situation, or I know this feels like impossible and there's no solutions available, but I bet if we put our heads together, we can come up with something creative. How many times have you said that? I need to be creative about this, or I bet we can come up with something creative, or you've heard people say that. That's why we need to cultivate a life of creativity, whether it's coloring in a coloring book, learning how to knit, like I said, going on a walk and just looking for new things, just looking at the sky. And remember, like when you're a kid, just staring at the sky and looking at the clouds and trying to find pictures in the clouds. That's creative. So go do something today, small, 5 minutes. Stand outside, smell the spring air, go for a walk, look at the clouds, sit down. Maybe all you have for art supplies in your home are like a black ballpoint pen and a pencil. Sit down with those and scribble. Do something creative for 5 minutes today and start exercising that muscle. All right, that's all I want to say today. Thanks for listening, you guys, and I will be back to talk about living a creative life again soon. Bye.